everyone, welcome back to the workshop. Now in this video I'm going to be setting up some remote wireless switching for my dust extractor. So I'm going to put one at my miter saw. I'll have one over here at my pillar drill and bandsaw. I'm going to mount one right here at my MFT table. So no matter where I'm working in my shop, I'm close by to a switch that I can just hit. It can switch on or switch off my dust extractor, and I don't have to keep going back and forth to the extractor itself when I'm working at the various stations around my workshop. So I'll take you through the products that I'm going to use. I'll show you how to set them up. I'll explain why I chose this option, and I'll show you how to word them. Now, disclaimer before we get into this, I'm a qualified electrician. That's what I do for my living. I'm also fully registered and fully insured to carry out electrical work. If you're not competent to carry out electrical work, if it's not legal for you to do so in your jurisdiction, do not attempt to do anything that I'm doing in this video. Get a qualified registered electrical contractor to carry out this work for you. Now, that being said, there will be still some good information for anybody who can't do electrical work themselves. It'll give you some ideas and some options how you might want to set up your shop for switching your dust extraction remotely. So let's jump in and do it. Okay, so let's jump in, start this project. Let me take you through what I'm going to use. Now, these are wireless kinetic switches. They're from a company called NRJ. I bought these with my own money, so this is not sponsored content, just to let you know that. I got these in my local electrical wholesaler. And like I say, these are wireless kinetic switches, so there's no power required to these, and there's no batteries required. The actual motion of operating the switch mechanism itself is enough to generate a voltage to send an RF signal to the receiver module. So you will need a receiver module. You can link 10 switches to this, so you can have 10 switches switching everything on and off, or you can have one switch switching 10 units. Depends how you want to set it up. All those options are there. So I have 3 actual physical switches which I'll be mounting around my shop, and the reason I went for 3 physical switches, there's multiple options you can go for with this kind of stuff. You can control it with your phone through an app, or you could get a key fob. I wanted physical switches because I don't want to be using my phone to switch on and off my dust extractor. It's just too fiddly. By the time you unlock the phone, get into it, get to the app, switch on the dust extractor, I would have walked across the room and switched my dust extractor on. So kind of pointless. And I want to keep my phone safe, so I like to leave it up out of the way in my workshop because phones are quite expensive and you don't want to be breaking them. Now, another option you could use is like a key fob, something like this, but if you're like me, you're forever leaving things out of your hand and you can never find the bloody fob when you want it. So this is the key fob for my overhead air filtration system, and I can never bloody find a thing. It's like my measuring tape. I have it in my hand 5 seconds ago and then I just can't find it. So the fob option wasn't for me. I wanted physical switches in place that I can just hit. I know where they are. They're nice and close by. That's why I went with this system. So like I say, wireless kinetic switches, switching a receiver module. Now, the receiver module is only capable of switching 100 watts. This system is actually designed to be used for lighting. So it's to switch on and off a light essentially. So what I'm going to be doing is using this to switch a contactor in this little module we have here. That will then send power to my socket. Now, I have a DX4000 dust extractor. It's a twin motor dust extractor. So there's 2 1 kilowatt motors on that. At 240 volts, that's just over 4 amps per kilowatt. So it's just over 8 amps. It's nearly between 9 and 10 amps is what that draws at full load. So this little unit would not be big enough to switch it. So you will need to use these to switch a contactor. So that's what we're going to do. And I'll show you how to wire that now in a second. So that's what I have. That's why I went with physical switches. That's my explanation. And yeah, so let's get in and start getting this assembled and up on the wall. Okay guys, just give you a close-up of what I'm doing here. Now obviously this unit is not designed to go into a little enclosure like this, so I just have it cable tied in place. It'll be absolutely fine. So there's my contactor, here's my socket. So my power will come in the top, it will go through my contactor, through my socket, and then this will switch the contactor. So we need a supply to this, and the outgoing side or the switchwire side of this RF unit will switch the coil on a contactor. Now a contactor, or relays, how they operate is they have a magnetic coil inside them, so it's just an iron core with a copper wire around it, and once it's energized, it acts like a magnet and it pulls the contacts either open or closed. This contactor is a 2-pole, normally open, so you can see it has 2 NO on it, which means that the contacts are open, and when it's energized, they are closed, so normally open. Make sure you get yourself a normally open one because you want it closed when it's switched. And when it's powered down, you want those contacts to open back up again. So that's how it works. And this is rated for 20 amps. So this is more than enough to switch our dust extractor. So you can use really small things to switch really big things if you use contactors and relays and things like that. So it's all electrical work. It's essentially just switches. Switching switches, switching switches, switching other switches. That's essentially all electrical work is. So I'm going to get this wired up now. I won't bore you with that, but when the wiring is done, I'll take you through it and give you a quick look. And yeah, you don't need to see me making this off. Okay guys, we are all wired up now. I'll briefly take you through this. Now, if this is all gobbledygook to you, don't worry. Get an electrician to do it, but there's plenty of woodworking electricians that watch my channel, so you guys will get this. But for everybody else, this will just give you an idea of what's possible and what you can do with your dust extraction systems. So again, nice and simple. I have the module in place. The module will switch the contactor. So here's my socket, live and neutral to the socket. My out wire is in place. Very important with all metal boxes that all metal boxes be grounded, so I have a fly lead on to my box. So coming off the bottom of my contactor, so there's 2 contacts on this normally open, so you have 2 normally open contacts. So I've broken the live and the neutral. So the live in Ireland is brown and the neutral is blue. So they are broken through it. So there's my neutral there, up onto my neutral block. And I have my live in here. So that's where my mains will come in now. My neutral will go to here and my live will go to here. And that'll give me a live and neutral on top of this contactor. And when this contactor is energized, they will pass through this, powering up my socket. So the module itself is very easy. So you have live out, neutral out here. You have live in and neutral in here. So the mains neutral comes in here. So that's just off my block again. And my mains live comes in here, which is going to go in with the live that's coming into this unit. So that's just looped from here to now. So that's just supplied to the unit. The supply out of the unit is here then. So the live goes on to A1 on the coil of the contactor, and the neutral out goes on to A2. So that's just either side of a coil. So you have A1 and A2. And when that's energized, it energizes that coil and just closes the contacts, and that will let power straight through this contactor. So the wiring of it is very basic. Again, if this is all, like I say, way over your head or too confusing like that, don't worry, get an electrician to do this. But it's pretty simple, and it won't take an electrician long to put this together for you. So these little lighting modules, that's the whole point of why I'm showing you this, I suppose, is because you can take these little lighting modules, have them switch a contactor, and you can do lots of different things other than what they are initially intended for, is the point. So there we go. There you go, that's our socket in place. Now we get this up on the wall, we get our mains into this, and when our mains is in, we can energize this, and we can get our switches set up. So let's do that. Okay, so this is where my dust extractor sits all the time. So this unit is going to sit right here, and I'm going to run a supply from the board, from my fuse board, to this unit. So it's going to be on its own. It's going to be separate from the rest of the sockets. So that'll sit right here. So I just need to make up a bit of steel conduit now to go between here and here. And yeah, that's where my dust extractor will plug in. So let's get on it. So first thing I need to do, get the trunking lid off, get a circuit from here over to here. Okay guys, there you go, our conduit is now in place, our unit is up on the wall and the socket is now in place. Just have a spacer behind the socket because coupling these two together, it keeps the socket off the wall, so we don't want to strain the box. So just have a spacer behind it. Lovely. Now I can close up that socket and get the wires into this guy and then into the board. Okay guys, I now have the mains in place. So our earth is into our earth block, neutral into our neutral block, our live is into the top here on this connector, and that's just looped over then to feed this guy as well. And this guy is switching our coil, so neutral out to here, live out to here. Our live in for our sockets is here, our neutral in for our socket is here. Neutral out to our socket, live out to our socket here, straight on through to our socket. So now all we do is kick this into the board, power this guy up, code the switches to this guy, and we can test it out. Okay guys, we are all powered up. The unit is ready for the switches to be programmed in, so it's nice and simple. I'll take you through that now in a second. I didn't film connecting stuff into the fuse board and stuff, and I kept the electrical stuff kind of quiet. I didn't do too much talking because it's actually illegal for anybody other than a registered electrical contractor to work on a fuse board, a consumer unit in Ireland, and that includes qualified electricians are not allowed to touch them unless they're registered and insured. So I'm kind of hesitant of what I can show and what I can't show. Anyway, let me just take you through this unit and we get the switches coded in place. Let's do it. Okay guys, very quickly then, just to code in our switch, it's very simple. We just press and hold this button. We get a steady flashing light. Press the button and it should stay on. There we go. And then back to quick flashing again, so it's saying it's ready. So then we just have to hit the switch. Contactor in, contactor out. Contactor in and contactor out. So that's all three switches coded in, nice and simple. Now let me just show you a potential issue here that I might have with this unit, and let me give you some recommendations. Okay, so the particular unit I've installed has a dimming function. Like I say, this is designed to work with lights. Now, I was full sure you could disable the dimming function, and you can, but what this unit does, it ramps up to voltage. So that's a potential issue when it comes to this contactor. You can hear the coil is buzzing slightly before it pulls in. So the voltage is at 50, 100, 120, then it gets to 240 volts. It takes about a second in order for this unit to put out 240 volts. And what you really want with a contactor like this is an instant 240. So there's actually another version of the unit, which is a cheaper version, which is the one I should have got, which is the non-dimmable receiver, which is just a straight on-off. So that will just break and make 240 volts. This one ramps up, so you can have a listen to the contactor. You can see it takes just that second for it to pull in now. The only issue you'll have there is because I'm disconnecting such a big load, it's 10 amps that extractor is pulling when it's running on load. You want that contactor in and out instantaneously. If the contacts are kind of buzzing like this and then pulling in, you will get arcing on the contacts, and that's not good because it will burn out those contacts. So I'll have to monitor this and see how it goes. And I can see if I can play around with this now and see if it has a straight on-off function. So just something to be aware of if you're thinking of putting in one of these units. Make sure it's a straight on-off function and that it doesn't ramp up the voltage, or you'll have a buzzing contactor like that. Now, let me just demonstrate that to you with the meter. Okay, so there we go, dust extractor is pulled in, the two switches are on the dust extractor, and I can just hit the switch and you can see that comes in and out again. Now there's a small bit of arcing because it's disconnecting 10 amps at 240 volts, so that's, 10 amps it doesn't sound like a lot, but there's quite a bit of energy there in 10 amps at 240 volts. Like I say, it's 2 kilowatts, so it's a nice punch, and that's why you need a kind of a meaty contactor in order to disconnect that load. The unit itself, that little RF unit, would not have a hope of switching that thing on and off. You just blow that to pieces in an instant. Your contacts would be no good. That's why you have to switch the contactor. So there we go. In it comes, and out it goes. Okay guys, so our next job then is just to get these switches in place, and we're almost done. Let's do that. So the first one I'm going to put right here, which is right between my pillar drill and my dust extractor. Right there. Okay, so the next one I'm going to fit right here beside my miter saw, which is the one that gets used the most with my actual dust extractor. This is where you really need it. So we'll keep him up out of the way, just right here. Okay Okay, and then last but not least, right here at my MFT table. So I'm going to be, in an upcoming video, I'm going to be reinstalling some more dust extraction. So we're going to go up and over to the MFT table and put some dust extraction in that way. So we're going to go up at high level. So this is going to be for that. I'm going to keep it in here on the leg where it won't get hit. And it's kind of out of the way. It'll be protected by the rim of the table here. Okay guys, so there we go, that's the system in place and it is working and I'm pretty happy with those switches. Now I should just point out that this particular unit can work with Amazon Alexa and with Google as well. However, I'm not going to use it that way. Like I explained at the start of the video, I'm not going to fiddle around with my phone. That's usually in my pocket, it's actually over there, you see what I mean? And it's a bit fiddly with apps, and then to use the voice commands in here, obviously it's not going to work, but when this thing is running, it's pretty loud, and then Alexa or the Google voice command systems aren't going to hear you and work properly there either. So the straight on and off with the switches is ideal. Now, it's good in a way, I suppose, that I found this particular issue so that I could share it with you guys and give you guys the heads up. There's multiple modules on the market, like the Google ones, the Amazon ones. There's multiple ones for smart sockets, smart switches. If they ramp up the voltage and you're trying to switch a load like a contactor, that you're going to get issues. So I have two options from here now. I can either change that module to a straight on-off type, so it gives you the 240 volts. It's just literally switching, opening and closing a switch. It's not ramping up voltage, so it has no dimming function. Or I can fit a second contactor, which is what I think I'll do. Rather than me bringing this back, because I've used it now, I have another contactor in the van and they're pretty cheap. So I'll use the module to switch the first contactor. That contactor will then switch the contactor that sends power to the dust extractor, and that eliminates my problem. The second contactor is not going to be pulling in and out. I'll let the first contactor do that. It won't be switching any load. It will only be switching the coil of the second contactor. So that eliminates that particular problem. So it's just a case of me now switching or fitting a second contactor in there to switch the first one. That's all, and that solves that issue. So a good thing to point out. It's a good little lesson that I've learned with this particular unit, and yeah, it's good to be able to share that with you guys. Right guys, so there we go. That is my dust extraction system now on wireless switches around the workshop. So it's nice and easy, apart from the little bit of wiring that you have to do to that socket. Again, it's not very complicated. Any electrician will be able to do that for you if it's too much for you to do yourself. And again, if you're not confident, don't attempt to do anything like that. Don't break any laws in your jurisdiction. Wherever you guys are in the world, make sure that you adhere to the safety regulations and the laws wherever you are. So if you can't do electrical work, don't attempt it. Get your electrician in. But it should give you guys some ideas of what's possible in your shop. And it's very, very easy to add switches. So if you felt like you're putting in some more machines, you can put up to 10 of those switches on that particular unit. Again, make sure you get a straight on and off unit, so whatever unit you decide to go with. Like I said, there's tons of them on the market. You can switch them with fobs, controllers, apps, the whole lot, as I've explained already. So there you go guys, I'll do an update on this system and let you know how it's all going in a upcoming workshop vlog, so stay tuned for that. I'll fit that second contactor and that will solve my little ramp up and voltage issue, like I said. Yeah, and that's it guys, it's starting to rain now, so I'm going to get out of here. Links to everything will, as always, will be below in the description. If you want to support me, you can come over and support me over on Patreon. And again, thanks very much to all the Patreon supporters. I get to chat back and forward and message those guys over on Patreon, which is nice too. So that's a nice little perk to be over on Patreon with. And yeah, that's it. Any comments, any questions you have for me guys, as always, in the comment section below, I will get back to you. So if there's anything you didn't understand, just ask. I'll do my best to answer. And I'm going to get out of here now guys, so I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.